All right, so today's course review is of Westpark Golf Course in Leesburg, Virginia. This is just outside of Leesburg, I think on Route 15 where it comes into Leesburg at the south side. It is a inexpensive, relatively short course, about 5,000 yards from the back tees, but the course has a tendency to play larger than it is because it is fairly tight. It has a lot of trees, although it's not a heavily treed course, not like a solid woods course. It's an open type course that has a lot of trees on it. Some of the holes are literally tree lanes, but very few of them. Most of them are bordered by houses or waste or a creek in one or two cases. And you will find that while the fairways are fairly well defined, the borders are often pretty soft. There's obviously some waste on some holes where the border is on the side that isn't playable, but on some sides there's thin sparse trees, and you can easily play through them. And another thing that makes this course play longer and tighter than it actually is the rough. The rough on this course is really thick rough. This is like that Kentucky bluegrass rough that you may have heard about in your golf horror stories. It is long, about 5 inches in some spots, usually between 3 and 5 inches. It is thick and it is very tough to play out of. You end up playing a lot of pitching wedges out of this rough to get anywhere. It's very hard to hit any long irons out of it. It's hard to hit any iron out of it really, because it tends to just bring the club to a almost complete stop. So it definitely shortens the course, and it definitely makes it hard to hit the ball straight unless you're playing a very high iron to get it up in the air quickly. So I think the course's layout isn't spectacular. I mean, most of it's straight holes, crescent holes. There's the occasional dog leg, but it does have a couple of really nice water holes, par threes. Number 18 is a very interesting and challenging hole, I think, for just about any golfer. It's a fairly large green, but it's still 165 over water to get to it. And number 10, likewise, is not necessarily over water, but it's in front of a lake. The remaining holes are your standard golf holes, but as I said, shrunken down with narrow fairways and a lot of rough and some waste off to the sides. There's some holes where it's very narrow and there's a fair amount of trees guarding the fairways, and it's very easy to go off in the trees if you're not absolutely careful about your shot and absolutely straight. So while it does have some open holes, certainly the latter half of the front side, and also the first few holes, first 4 or 5 holes in the back are fairly open holes, straightforward holes with really only the waste on the extreme and the rough to really make it tough. It still does require you to play good shots. I mean, I don't think that anyone can come out here and be sloppy and play this course well. You have to hit good shots to play this course well, and even though they're not long, it's still a challenge. It's a very good challenge. I think this is an excellent value in a golf course. I think while some of the holes can get repetitive on the backside, you do see some repetition, and there are some holes where the houses are right next to the holes. I think that the houses can be seen as a plus or minus because there's some nice houses, but at the same time they're literally right on the course in some areas. And you do see some occasional interaction between the residents and the people playing. When I played, I certainly had a couple of holes where guys snuck down the fence behind me to hit, and then ran back up towards their house where they're having a barbecue. There's a couple of holes, no question about it, where you're going to have some interaction probably with somebody who lives in the area. But the course is worth it. It really is $20 for the cart, at least on Golfnow. And it's convenient if you live in Leesburg or Chantilly or anything, west out on Route 7 or out 66. It's fairly easy to get to, as far as Leesburg. I think it's a gem of a course. I won't say that it is a spectacular course, but it is certainly a solid golf workout. If you think you can play, or you think that I'm a decent golfer, I can break 80 or whatever, try to break 80 on this course and see how it works out. I think it is not going to trick you, but it is going to make you play a solid round. And any course that makes you play a solid round without, being overly goofy or overly tricked up is a good course. And this is a good course. It doesn't really have a big course feel. It's not lush. It's not wide. But at the same time, it is a decently tight, decently wide course. It has some decent looking holes, some good shots. And I think it is an absolute value at $20 with a cart. That's Westpark Golf Club in Leesburg, Maryland. Leesburg, Virginia. Leesburg, Virginia, no question. Okay, I forgot to rate Westpark. Westpark, I have to say it's not I think the biggest thing about it is it does get to be a little bit repetitive on the backside. A lot of courses will step up the backside dramatically. This course doesn't. It does get a little bit more difficult on the backside, but I wouldn't say it gets much better on the backside. It does have a few holes like 14, 15, 16, which are very similar. You're going one way, then the other way, then back. And very similar, very straightforward. Really just drive and hit iron shots to the green holes, which I think are the weakest parts of the course. Most of the rest of the course is actually pretty decent. And I can't say it's not flat. It is mostly flat, which is another strike against it, except for one hole really, which has any kind of verticality to it, or maybe two. Number 10 and number 2 have some verticality. I wouldn't really say that it is a strong course. I'd say it's a good course, a great value. I'd give it a C plus. I'm gonna say that it is a good outing, but you can find better courses that are more fun to play. The problem is you'll pay a lot more money. You'll pay at least $30, $40 to play a course that's much like this course, just bigger. Now, the thing is that they may have some more holes with some more variety and some more challenges, but I wouldn't say that this is a bad course at all. I think it's just not that great, and it's much more of a basic, straightforward golf challenge than a fun course to play. That's the one strike I'd give it. There are some good holes on it, no question. There are some fun holes on it. But I wouldn't say the majority of the course is really that much fun to play. It's okay. And I think a C plus B minus is the most I could give it. And that's Westpark Golf Course in Leesburg, Virginia.